Okay, we're live.
Are live.
Well, good evening, everyone. So it's the December 15th, 2021 meeting of the Lacey Historical Commission, and we're calling the meeting to order. Do I need to go through the commissioners present? Okay. Commissioner Black here. Commissioner Miller. I see him. Commissioner Getz.
Yep, I'm here.
Present. And Commissioner Tyler.
Here.
Present. I believe that makes a quorum. Correct. Okay. Number 2 is additions or deletions to the agenda. Parks Director I believe has a addition or change to the agenda.
Yep, just a change in the order. So I was going to recommend that we move 8A before 7. So that we can have our guest speaker go first. And then I was going to also recommend we move 10 after number 7, so that we can have our public comment before we do our part 3 of the commissioner training.
Got it. I think that makes sense. Do we have a motion?
So like just keep the revisions.
To keep the proposed revisions.
So it would be the agenda as amended would be
the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Hey, Commissioner Black, and second from Commissioner Getz. Great. Sorry if I'm rusty at this. It's been a while.
It's okay. So all those you'd want to say all those in favor?
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? No. The agenda, alterations to the agenda pass.
Do you want to note that Commissioner Keogh arrived at 6:02?
Thank you. Commissioner Keogh has arrived. Thank you. Okay, so number 3 are the minutes that were provided in your packet. And are there any, I guess, do we move to approve the minutes or and then ask for corrections?
So we typically ask if there's any corrections
first.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, are there any corrections to the minutes that were transmitted for November 17th?
No.
No? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes from November 17th?
Also move. Second.
Commissioner Keogh, and that was Commissioner Tyler. Second. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? No. Okay. Minutes are approved per the transmittal. So number 4 is on our agenda is any announcements.
I do have one.
Okay.
I just wanted to let everybody know that we don't have any applicants, unfortunately, yet for Commissioner Huff's replacement. So we did send out another press release. We're hoping to gain some interest there. So I will keep you updated. But good news, Commissioner Huff was thanked at the December 2nd City Council meeting, and we're getting him his award this weekend. He was recognized by myself and by the council and had some really kind words to say about staff and the other commissioners. So we did that on December 2nd.
Thank you. Can you refresh my memory about membership requirements or participation on the Historical Commission for residents. Do they need to be residents of Lacey? Can they be residents of the greater Thurston County?
Actually, so that's a good question. For this commission, we have a little more leeway with the residency if it's a professional member.
Okay.
And so they can actually live in the greater Thurston County area. Again, if they're a professional member of the commission.
Okay. I had someone who had inquired, who has previously participated on, I think the county commission maybe. So I said I would ask. Great. Is the announcement on the city's website?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I'd be happy to provide you a link if you have someone who's interested.
Yeah, that would be great. Could we just share that with the commission if it hasn't already come through?
Yep.
Okay.
Got
Thank
it.
you. Any other questions for Jen? Hearing nothing. How about any other announcements?
I don't have anything else. Thanks.
Okay. Okay, number 5 is correspondence.
I don't have any.
Yeah.
I don't have any.
No. Okay. No correspondence. Number 6, calendar of events and the January history talks.
Yeah, I just
Erin?
wanted to remind everybody that I'm really looking forward to our next history talks on January 11th. It's going to be with Dr. Thelma Jackson, and she's going to be talking about the history of Blacks in Thurston County from 1950 to 1975. She gives a really interesting presentation, so I hope that you all will join us for that. It should be really good.
Excellent. Thank you for the announcement. Okay, number
Aaron,
7.
when is that going to be? What date is that?
Let me go back. I had it all up and ready. Tuesday, January 11th
Okay.
at 6:30.
Thanks.
Yep.
Great. Thank you. So I believe with our revised agenda that then we're going to pause on number 7 and move 8A up. Did I capture that correctly?
Captured that correctly.
Awesome. And this is a presentation from some guests. I'm not certain I know what the abbreviations are. And Jason Robertson. So are our guests on the call?
Yeah, so we have Jason Robertson. It looks like he's been promoted to the panel, and there he is.
Excellent. Hello, Mr. Robinson. Welcome to the Lacey Historical Commission.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah, so I'd like to introduce Jason. So his company is J. Rowe & Co. And our chair of the commission, Eric, had requested that Jason come and report out on the Parks Outreach project. And unfortunately, Eric is not here tonight. So we that's too bad, but I will definitely provide the slides to him and just follow up and see if he has any questions. But we are excited to have Jason with us here tonight. This project actually started, and you all had been updated about the Lacey Cares project. So it started in the first quarter of this year. And City Council had asked Parks to really do a deeper dive into Parks culture and recreation with the community and look at some communication gaps that might exist and look at, how we can do better with public engagement, which we totally appreciated the opportunity to be able to do this. So Jason helped us develop an outreach team of trusted advisors in the community based on their participation in our programs, affiliations with local clubs, and or because they gave some really great valuable insights through the Lacey Cares survey, which we got a lot of inputs from that. Jason will be sharing with you about that. So tonight, he's going to present the data and he'll talk about next steps for our process. And I really want to thank Jason for all his hard work. We appreciate all the insights and the great work that he's been doing for us. He does have the final report done, and he was able to send that off to us this week. So we didn't have that in the packet for you, but we will be providing that final report to you as well. So Jason, I will hand it off to you.
Thanks, Jen. I probably should start by noting for the record, I may have played on a softball team with Jim Keogh about 20 years ago. Does that ring a bell, Jim? I think you
You're
were
on
at
mute.
Commerce. Anyway, so I've got Jen, not to pull a surprise on you, but I was thinking I'm going to show them the parks survey results, the priorities results, but I also thought I would show them 2 slides from the Lacey Cares just as a preview, and I'm sure we'll come back next year.
Sure.
To pick that back up. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
So I want to see if I can share my screen, find the right thing. Yeah. So first thing I wanted to do is just give you a little bit more detail on the process. So Lacey Cares, it was the concept is, gosh, we've all been at that point in our homes for a year and not connecting. And so it was both a way to reconnect with the community, but also get people to start thinking about what can life be like when we get out of this funk? And how can Lacey be an even better place to live and connect and all of that? And we really left it open-ended so people could tell us in their own words. I'm sure some of you took the survey. Over 1,300 people did participate, and it was not easy. We listed, well over a dozen topics from, around the theme of quality of life, from parks and recreation to equity and inclusion and everything in between. And then parks is sort of the first out of the gate, but ultimately we'll divide all that input into what I call focus areas and develop actions. So, the first thing we do is let people give us organic input. Then we try to interpret what it means. And then we test and say, hey, here's what we think you said. Did we get it right? And which of these things is most important if we can't do it all at once? And so parks has sort of started that process. There are over 6,000 comments alone on parks, recreation, and culture. And so we sorted that out, and we had a couple of questions. There were some very general comments that we wanted to get more details on. So we formed the outreach team and tried to do intercepts, surveys of people at events or online through people's different Facebook groups and so forth. And then we put out a parks priority survey and had 1,200 respondents. And I think in some cases, the results are very clear. In other cases, we'll probably be talking about it in groups like this moving forward. And ultimately, what we want to do is use the resulting input to shape the comp plan update for parks, so that we're putting out the product that the people want to see and support. Parks Department did a great job promoting the survey, put up signs in key locations throughout the city. We enlisted our partners like the North Thurston School District, Chamber of Commerce, and others to send out the link. And then I'm going to kind of whip through pretty quick here, if you want me to come back later, just the basic demographics of who took the survey. It's skewed, it's unlike a telephone survey where you kind of pre-select the demographics. This is sort of a self opt-in. So it's skewed a little bit towards the young to middle-aged parent demographic in terms of age. Some of the heaviest users, predominantly, about 2/3 female. A little wealthier than city median household income on average. You can see down here, the 75 to 100,000 is 56%. In real life, that is not the percentage. This is closer, the actual demographic and race numbers line up pretty well with the city composite. Still pretty heavily white, but the city is pretty heavily white, but pretty good demographic cross-pollination here. All of these numbers are pretty consistent with what Lacey shows from Black or Asian and so forth. And then of the 77% white, 11% of those identify as Hispanic, which is pretty close as well. This one surprised me a little bit. There were the highest number of respondents don't have any children living at home. So what that could mean is that there were retired empty nesters with more time on their hands to take our survey. But there were also plenty of respondents that do have some combination of younger and teenage kids living at home. Collectively, it's the greatest input. And then 93% of the respondents are parks users, and for some reason 7% who don't use them chimed in as well. We asked them what park they most visited in case you wanted to do some cross analysis later, and you'd expect to see things like Rack and Rainier Vista up top, but I know a couple staff people were surprised how high Meridian Park was. And I actually live out that way, and I'm not. That's a pretty well-used park with a lot of potential for the future. We didn't. 750 of the 1,200 people were willing to tell us their own street or their nearest cross street, so we can map that if we want later. Yeah, that's neither here nor there, really. So I wanted to. Kind of just, I only have a few slides. We could dive into details if you're interested in any particular topic, but I wanted to keep this pretty high level. We asked people to vote for their top general priorities. When you think about the park system, here are categories that people talked about in Lacey Cares. You can choose up to 3 of them. We're starting to force people to pick and see if things pop out. And so walking trails, swimming pool, and preserving open space and natural areas are the highest. More indoor recreation facilities is pretty high. And then it drops off a little bit after that. And I sorted it just for people's top 3 votes. What's interesting is add more sports fields is towards the bottom. We're going to come back to that later because it's a bit nuanced, but in terms of what Lacey needs and what people want to do, this is how it's sorted out. And then we asked them basically, how should we spend our money? What's the most important thing to make sure we preserve or add? And I didn't expect this one either, but continue offering affordable recreation programming was a clear winner. I think anybody who's ever done a swimming program, for example, knows that that's a pretty good deal to be able to use a pool compared to joining a private gym. And it's the same thing with swim lessons or yoga or, one of the cultural trips. But everything is pretty high. Add new outdoor features, add new indoor features, pretty close. And we'll get deeper into that in a second. So in terms of what kind of programming, this chart shows, or graph, shows you just the percentage of somewhat and very supportive responses. And so you can see more recreation programming for youth is about 65% in favor of that, and pretty close on more recreation programming for teens. The difference being there's a little bit more passion on the very supportive for youth. And even though it's lower, you still have, the lowest supportive combination you have is 53% basically for adult programming. So those are all good numbers. Okay, we asked people specifically about sports fields and facilities priorities. And what you see here are the total number of first, second, or third place votes given to a specific option. And so earlier we saw that people don't feel the urgency to add more sports fields. We have the rack after all, but they do want specific kinds of sports fields. And so the number one vote getter is multi-purpose sports fields. And we think that that means year round, that don't fall apart, that can be converted for, different purposes. Cross-country trails, pretty high actually for cross-country trails. For all the people I know who hate to run, that's actually a pretty good number for that topic. And then in some of the as far as the traditional sports go, basketball courts are high, and we'll talk about that again and when we get into indoor-outdoor stuff. Pickleball is high, but not as high as you would think, given the amount of noise that's made around pickleball. And then tennis just didn't resonate with people. It's kind of the lowest choice on the questions where it comes up. So one conclusion that we might consider is that if we're going to do racket sports, the investment priority is probably pickleball over tennis at this point in the history of the world. Outdoor features, and I will. So when we were doing the original Lacey Cares outreach, it was summer, and people were thinking about water, being able to go swim or to a splash pad. But when we sent this survey out, it was fall and it was raining and cold, and still outdoor pool, splash pad, top of the list, followed by walking trails by a pretty big margin. And then there you see again the turf year-round sports fields and enhanced public lake water access. And that one I want to dive into a little deeper, because I think some of that might be mourning the loss of the docks at Long Lake, and some of it may be, we have a ton of lakes, I sure wish I could get in there, right? So, and then if you don't already have this PowerPoint presentation, we'll get it to you so you can study this at your own pace, because there's quite a bit in here to unpack. I think there's some things here that surprised me was skate parks having relatively few first, second, third place votes. Disc golf course kind of outperforming expectations. It's a growing sport in popularity, so I shouldn't be surprised. Dog parks is high, but not as high as you would think based on the amount of noise that gets made around dog parks as well. So let's look at indoor features. And this one was the most striking result of the entire survey, in my opinion. So all the different indoor things you could have, indoor swimming pool is just off the charts. And we've talked about that internally a bit, and because North Thurston is the only school district that has pools, right? But people don't feel comfortable accessing them, or they're not accessible at the hours that they can use them. If you think about it, especially seniors who a lot of people are interested in water therapy, for example, you can't go there in the middle of school day. And you don't, want to do this. You can do On the Deep in your own, I think, is the class at, 8 o'clock at night. And for a lot of folks, that's just not a functional option. But what's interesting about this slide as well, when you start thinking about planning for the future, some of these other kind of high scoring items can be combined. So for example, if you have an indoor field of sorts, it could be used for volleyball or futsal or soccer. Indoor skating rink rated pretty high too. And that's something to think about. That's something, if it was an expensive proposition that we couldn't do in the near term, you could do temporary ones like they've got in downtown Olympia right now. And then here again, pickleball's a little bit further down the list. I would have expected it to be higher. So I'm not going to draw a final conclusion on pickleball because, like I said, these were self-selecting survey respondents. Later, when we get back around to Lacey Cares, I'll recommend we do a statistically valid telephone survey and kind of see what the voters think. Just 3 more. Ask people to rate programs and classes, events, and I don't know how much of this is COVID times, but people wanted to get together and do things. I mean, concerts in the parks, movies in the park, fun runs. In terms of actual indoor classes, cooking and crafts are sort of at the top. But there's pretty good parity in most everything, except for virtual opportunities, which people have said, no, thank you, no more for me. Okay, now we're getting a little bit into your bailiwick. Arts and culture. Again, same kind of theme, street fairs and entertainment, expanded farmers market, but also quite a bit of support for cultural events and festivals and performances. Even though it's lower on this list, museum and cultural venues, people know we have a museum. What I think the leverage point is going to be is that the kinds of things people want to do can take place at your museums, small and large. And that will kind of bring more attention to them because a lot of younger people don't naturally think, I'm going to go to the museum. But if they go over there for the event, they might just learn something and get a spark. And again, I'm just showing here the top 3. So there's, in terms of raw numbers, all of these got more than you see here, but this just helps us scale it out. So as I mentioned earlier, we're going to incorporate these findings into the comp plan discussions. We will come back around to it from a different angle as well through Lacey Cares. So you can envision focus groups like infrastructure and economy, parks and recreation and culture, neighborhoods and districts, right? And we'll form different groups that if you see the opportunity come up, you could volunteer for, that will kind of sort through the data after I organize it in a manageable fashion and start proposing potential actions that we can do to achieve these community aspirations. And then, like I said, take it back to the community and say, this is what you said, where do you want us to start first? And then we'll begin talks with potential partners. We didn't limit what people could ask for, but some of the things they came up with aren't going to be City of Lacey actions. They're going to be school district or Homes First or whoever, right? And so we'll try to pull together a village to make Lacey an even better place. So I'll pause there, and I have just 2 slides I was going to show you from the Lacey Cares, but first I'll take any questions on the Parks Priority Survey.
Great. Commissioners, does anyone have questions on the survey?
I just want to comment. Why
Yeah.
was there any consideration given to security in the parks and the open areas?
I didn't quite hear that.
I said, was there any consideration given to safety and security in the parks area?
Yeah.
I don't walk on the Western Trail anymore because every time I walk on the trail, I get accosted by somebody. So
So two-part answer to that. In the Lacey Cares data, we got a lot of comments on that. I would say response to homelessness and safety pervades every focus area because it intersects with everything that people do. So it's going to be a focus. It's just a matter of where it lands. We did float the idea of park rangers in this priority survey, and it was lower on the list for people's overall goals. But it did get votes. It's acknowledged challenge.
all right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have questions about this survey before we check out the last couple of slides? My only comment, thank you for presenting. And also I appreciate the commentary that things can be lumped and don't have to be distinct limiting factors. And so I like this idea of coordinating our recreational and arts and culture comprehensively, so we can get the most bang for our buck. And then you also get, as you noted, opportunity where someone comes to do whatever type of event or recreation, and then they can also learn about something else. So I like that approach.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I had.
Go ahead, Jason. Sorry.
That actually happened to me as I was over in the Lacey Depot trying to do intercept surveys, and I'm like, hey, this is kind of cool. I hadn't been in there before, so. I mean.
Hey, real quick, I wanted to just acknowledge that and mention for Commissioner Miller's benefit that our youth council is potentially going to be one of our focus groups for the teen demographic moving forward. So we're really excited to engage them. I'll be attending their meeting this coming Tuesday to discuss how that'll work. But I think they've already started work on that, and hopefully Commissioner Miller can update us on that during his report.
Excellent. That's really good to hear. And I'm sure, as you know, the RAC is full of teen athletes and people recreating despite this bad weather, as a parent who gets to stand in it. So hopefully your intercepts will be easy that way.
Yeah. I would say if there's a flaw to our survey, it was that very few under age 20 individuals took it. So we're going to have to be more proactive to pull the feedback through schools somehow. So Nathan, figure that out. We'll be back in touch.
Excellent. Well, thanks. And Jen, if you have any interest, my day job, we are undertaking our statewide comprehensive outdoor recreation plan update, and the staff are doing outreach on that with the consultant. So they have some really unique ways they're accessing folks. So I can give you some contacts if you need them.
Cool. Thank you. All right.
Great.
Jason has a couple more slides.
Yes.
Sure. This is going to be fast. So on the topic of diversity, equity, inclusion priorities, these are sort of the major themes that emerged from that grassroots engagement. And I think it's going to be something that intersects with your own work. It's the cultural events, festivals, involving people from different cultures with different abilities. I think that the Historical Commission can be a leader in some of that. And then, let's see, where's the other one? For arts and culture, again, unsolicited, but this is what people asked for: more arts displays and venues. Cultural events, again, performing arts space and performances, arts education classes, and good old fun. So that's all I wanted to show you on that. And this PowerPoint is also available that has summary bullet points for all the themes that we sought feedback on.
Jason, this is Jim Keogh. Did you notice any particular demographics that were most interested, like in this type of fair and that type of, in Lacey? Or was it pretty broad spread?
It was pretty universal, to be honest with you. We have, within the Lacey Cares part, we had some very specific actions. And so when I sorted the data, I would have a bullet that says, hey, more cultural events, and then indented bullets of, specific takes on what that means. For example, a number of people asked for a more diverse recognition of cultural holidays. And then we had some that said, let's do more mixed cultural events, and some that said let's feature each culture, once a month during the summers and have a rotating. And then the performing arts venues was pretty interesting too, because people want to do everything from live action drama to horns to whatever you can imagine. So,
Okay. Thank you.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the presentation.
You're welcome. And if you think of questions later, just pipe them through Jen and we'll be happy to answer.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay. Have a good evening.
Thanks, Jason.
Have a good evening.
Thanks.
Okay, bye.
And I may have missed it. Is Jason a contractor for the city?
Yeah, he's a
Okay.
consultant. Yep, his
He's a
company.
consultant.
Yes, his company is called J Row and Co. And
Okay.
he is doing a number of things for the city, the Lacey Cares outreach, and then also, as we just said, the Parks outreach. But he's also working on a communications plan, and I think that's one of the things that Commissioner Ebel was really interested in as well. But that piece is coming after the other work that he's already done. So there'll be more updates coming.
Great. Thank you. So I think that brings us back to 7A. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, I'm following along. So this is old business, and A is the new museum project.
Yeah, so I have a brief update on that. Good news, the Heritage Capital Projects grant has been signed with the Washington State Historical Society.
Okay.
So we did get that underway. It will, so therefore the first contract for bid pack 1 has been signed, and it's in your packet. And so that is, so if you recall, the grant amount is $607,000. What you see in your packet is the first $62,450 of that work, which will get the project underway. And it looks like the bid selection for that project is currently scheduled for January 20th for the city council meeting. We are asking all tenants to be out by the end of the year out of 5,700 building to prepare for demolition. And then January 20th, hopefully if everything goes on schedule, the bid will be awarded for that. And then regarding Cardno, we're still waiting for the DAP form draft. I haven't seen that come through yet. And Commissioner 30acre, I know that Aaron had added you to Wizard per your request.
Yeah, and I did check, and there isn't anything currently in Wizard.
Okay.
So, yeah, we're just waiting for that draft.
Yep. So we're poking them. I know that our capital projects manager Ashley had said that she was poking them on that. And I saw that Sarah Smith set up a meeting for the archaeology committee for you all on December 21st.
Correct.
So I'm hopeful that the committee can review the draft at that point.
Yeah, I would really like to do that. I know Cardno has lost additional number of staff, so I'm not surprised that we don't have something yet. Okay. So I had noticed the other day when I was driving by that looked like there was some mobilization going on at the museum location. Number of kind of construction looking vehicles. Is that people just getting ready to figure out how the structure's coming down? Or maybe it was a gathering. Unrelated.
Do you recall what day it was?
I don't.
Okay. I know that they're going to be doing a walkthrough on December 20th. So that's this coming Monday. It's a pre-bid kind of a Q&A walkthrough, but I don't know of anything formal that happened. Do you?
Okay.
Erin? Okay. It may not have been related.
Right. It's a great parking lot, so it may not have been related.
Yeah.
Okay, terrific. So the archaeology committee, I think it's Tuesday at 1:30. I have to look at my
Yes,
calendar.
that is correct. Yep.
Okay,
Tuesday the 21st at 1:30.
great. So that sounds good. And Jen, if it helps, or Aaron, I don't need the whole report to review the site form. So if they're able just to get us the site form before that meeting, that would be awesome.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll try to,
Great.
we'll poke them, see what we can get, and then
What does the site form look like?
So the site form, I'll show you. I think I have what let's see here. I thought I had one up to show you. So and project. They've moved everything online. So archaeology. Oh, it's not going to be it's not going to be simple to view it. So it's a couple page document that goes through the location information, the materials or artifacts that were identified, and then it applies the criterion and discusses its eligibility. And then ultimately you should have a eligibility recommendation in the site form in terms of whether it's eligible for listing on the National Register or a state register. So that's what it looks like. And it's usually, I mean, something like this shouldn't be more than a, 5 pages, maybe.
Okay.
all right. Okay, so we'll ping them and get you information as soon as possible. Hopefully before
Okay.
Tuesday.
Sounds good. Okay, so I think we're on to 7B. These are the November acquisitions, and we had reviewed this topic at our last meeting, and a number of us had expressed some concerns about the acquisitions, and without Aaron being in attendance to answer all of our questions, we deferred approving those until this meeting. And then I'm not sure if there's also new ones.
Right. So I did watch this portion of the last meeting so that I understood what you guys had concerns about. So before we dive in specifically on the items, I wanted to remind you guys that the museum policy manual is always available to you on our website as you're preparing for the meeting. I've also added it as a clickable link within the recent acquisitions document so that it will always be easily available to you from now on. It is in the About Us section of the website, and the strategic plan is there as well. So I also included in your packets a copy of some of the relevant aspects of the museum policy that should address some of the issues that were raised at the meeting. First, I want to point out our collecting scope. Although our main collecting focus is definitely Lacey, we can and do accept items related to Thurston County and sometimes the state or even national issues that can provide a context to Lacey history and that can contribute to our interpretive themes. So second, in regard to collection items that are related to Native American tribes, our policy specifically outlines what types of items we will not take or would only take with tribal consultation and agreement. In essence, we would never accept a repatriatable object, which includes human remains, burial goods, either associated or not associated with a specific set of remains, sacred objects, or cultural patrimony. And for those of you who don't know what a couple of those are, Sacred objects refers to specific ceremonial objects that are needed by Native American religious leaders for the practice of traditional Native American religions by their present day adherents. Cultural patrimony is an object that has ongoing historical, traditional, or cultural importance central to the tribe or the culture itself, rather than property that is owned by an individual person. This means that even if person A gave this item to person B, since it really belongs to the whole tribe and was not person A's item in the first place, they shouldn't have been giving it away and it didn't belong to them. So any question on any of that before we move on to the specifics of the acquisitions?
No, thank you for providing that. And it's in the meeting agenda packet for anyone who wants to refer to that. And thank you for the formal explanation regarding NAGPRA. And it, as you can imagine, is a well-discussed topic, shall we say, in terms of the definitions around sacred objects and cultural patrimony. We certainly have legal and regulatory definitions, but I think we should probably remember that the interpretation of that can vary party to party, tribe to tribe. So anyway, I think we did not, at least speaking on my behalf, and maybe I didn't do my proper preparation for the last meeting, that we didn't have enough information or background associated to the one of the objects. And so we were hoping to have a little more discussion on that.
Sure. So let me share my screen.
Thank you.
Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this chair was brought to our attention by the DAR Olympia chapter. This chair was used at the Steamboat Island School. And so the school was a white school, and then Native children were added to the roles. And when they did that, the school did not have the proper equipment for additional students. And so the teacher at the school, who is the father of Velma Mae Rogers, who is the person who gave it to the DAR, he made chairs so that the students would have a place to sit and made sure that they had the appropriate equipment that they needed. I was really excited when we got this potential acquisition, because although it's not exactly related to, the idea of Native American children being sent to assimilating boarding schools, I feel like it touches on that topic, which when we did our work on the permanent exhibit design with tribal consultation, they identified that the topic of tribal education and schools and that whole experience that happened to them was really, really important to address in the exhibit. And so I was very excited to receive an artifact that touched on that topic. So that is where I was coming from.
Awesome. Thank you for that background. I think that that's really helpful, and it's good to hear. I assumed that you had put that thought into it, and that any interpretive work associated with the artifact in the future would be done in a manner that was really sensitive to that subject. And it's good to hear that that was brought forward by tribes in the planning process. So like as a result of that, I don't have ongoing concerns about it. Do any other commissioners want to weigh in?
I'll jump in and say I think this would be a very appropriate item for the permanent collection. especially given the fact that it was made by somebody local. It was made by white folks, for lack of a better way to express it. This is, again, not a tribal artifact. We're not taking it away from a tribal museum or some other tribal exhibit, but it can help tell the part of the story that needs to be told as part of this exhibit.
Okay. Anything else? All right.
I don't
go ahead.
think so.
Okay. The next item was the items from the Olympia Historical Society and Bigelow House Museum. So the comment on these was about the relationship to Lacey, and I sort of already addressed that, but to give you a little background, the Bigelow House had a great deal of items that they are removing from the museum. They were never in their collection. And so they're all related to the Bigelow family and were left at the house when it was given over to the museum. And so I went and spent a day over there going through boxes and boxes and boxes of things, and very carefully selected one box of items that I thought were things that are either gaps in our collection or more contemporary items that we haven't collected before. Things like that I thought might be a good fit for our collection. Anybody have any questions on that?
Aaron, what would be some examples of some of those?
I'll tell you my favorite item. You're gonna laugh, but it's a 1980s Transformer watch. It turns into a little character. I want it. There's an apron, very, very 30s, 40s apron that's really cute. I'm trying to think what else there is. Some like generic type of, I mean, not generic, but household items like baking pans and things like that I know we don't have, but that are typical of a time period.
So they augment our current collection and the interpretation of the time period. So it would kind of round out. Yeah.
Yeah, they're either a specific type of category of item or a time period that's not really represented well in our collection.
So you're not picking them for their association with the Bigelow family?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, am I collecting things from the Bigelow family? Not exactly, but the fact that they have a local connection is important. I'm much more likely to take, a cute apron from the 1940s that's from the Bigelow family in Olympia than I am to take someone someone wants to give me grandma's from Michigan.
Right.
So I would probably say no to that. But the Bigelow family was from here. It's local. And in fact, Anne Bigelow's mother was from Lacey.
Excellent.
She was a Ruddle.
Oh, okay. So do any other commissioners have comments or questions about the November acquisitions?
I'm not done.
Oh, sorry. You're not done. I forgot.
I'm not done. Next we have, and I combined both months, so I don't remember where I left off and where I didn't.
Okay. Because there's new recent acquisitions under 8B.
Oh.
So are we
I
just?
thought I took that off. Oh well. So I should have mentioned that in the agenda. I didn't realize.
We can make a motion to review the recent acquisitions at the same time, can't we?
Yeah.
Okay. So
It's two motions either way.
two motions either way.
Why don't we I move we accept the first two. Or
Well,
approve
it's not like that. It's all combined. I don't know which things were which. I don't know which things were on the last month's versus this month's.
Okay,
Okay.
never mind. Ignore
Sorry.
me. I didn't say
I
anything.
move that we combine both months' acquisition report.
I'll second that.
So moved and seconded. Is there who's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So it's approved to combine November and December, and we will hear both of those under this current topic under 7.
All right. Thank you. Sorry for making a procedural problem.
You are fine.
The next item was something that we received from Ralph Monroe, former Secretary of State. 2 DVDs and a record, all related to local music or recordings. We don't have anything like this in our collection, so I thought that this was a cool addition. Any questions on that?
Nope.
Okay, and then what?
It's a little bit of a stretch how it relates to Lacey, isn't it?
Like I said, it doesn't have to relate specifically to Lacey, but provide a context locally. And I think all of this relates locally.
George Barner was a member of the Thurston County Commissioners too, wasn't he?
I think so.
That's what I remember.
And that record benefited the Thurston County Food Bank. And the DVD on Louie Louie, the proposal to have it as our state song in the history of Northwest rock and radio. Radio is a really important theme for us because of the KGY history. So I feel like that's important. And the Olympia Highlanders is related to the importance of our local heritage groups. Okay, and then this last item is from former curator Amber Rainey. It's an addition to the Byers collection. Most of this is research material. It's not really archival, but it's related to George Himes, who was an early pioneer here. And it has a lot of copies of the diaries and transcriptions and other information related to the George Himes or Balch family that are related to this area. All right, and then there were several items that I declined. One was a piano because it wasn't related to Lacey, and where am I going to put a piano anyway? I also had a proposed donation of fossils and geological specimens and a very, very long conversation with the donor about why they didn't fit our collecting scope. And then we were offered a potbelly stove related to the railroad, but sadly it was not the correct railroad, so I declined it.
Excellent. Thank you for
just to prove that I don't take everything that we're offered.
Okay, so we will now hear a motion to accept the acquisitions for November and December.
So moved.
Moved.
Second.
Any seconded? Anyone, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Nope. Okay, moved and seconded. We'll accept the acquisitions for November and December. Thank you, Erin, for being gracious enough to explain all of this to us. We appreciate it. Okay, so I think if I'm tracking correctly, we're moving public comment to next. And up first, I have the Lacey Historical Society.
Hello.
Hello.
I want to report on that Sue and I had said at the last meeting that Sue and I were going to be attending a presentation on changes to the bylaw for nonprofits. And it was actually, what it did was it sort of showed us that we are pretty much in compliance. It doesn't change very much. The reason for the state doing it was to make procedures for nonprofits to make it easier for them and to have them more in compliance with rules that come out of the federal government as well. There were two ladies that talked, and they had a PowerPoint. And the PowerPoint was recorded as they were talking. And so I have it. They sent it out to all of the people who attended. And if you know of somebody who might be interested in seeing this particular PowerPoint talking about the changes to the new nonprofit law.
Excellent.
And I wanted to add, I actually took the survey. I remember it was a long time ago. I took the survey. Steve Kirkman sent it to me. And I think I saw some, I was probably on that old age scale when they talked about the people, but the one thing I remember saying, there was a thing that he didn't approach because it didn't have to do with parks, but they did ask you what you really wanted the city to do. And I said, I really want the city to preserve historic property.
We appreciate those comments.
That's it.
Excellent. Thank you for your update, Lanny.
Okay.
Do we have anyone else on the line to provide comment?
I don't see anybody in the attendees column. Anybody else? So no.
Okay, excellent. So we will now move on to, we're skipping recent acquisitions because we completed that, and move on to the 2022 calendar. And
yes, thank you. So we have provided a 2022 calendar in the packet. And one thing we wanted to highlight is that it doesn't include a February regular meeting because of the Historical Commission and City Council joint work session. And so what that would mean is typically what'll happen is we'll end up canceling, the commission will end up canceling their regular meeting. And so we have to go back in and update the calendar. And so we just presented it this way in case the commission is agreeable to doing it that way. And then you just have all of your dates all in one place.
excellent. I think that's a great approach. Any other comments on the calendar? Do we need to adopt it?
Yep, we were looking for an action to approve.
Awesome. Is that what the little asterisks mean in the agenda?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, do we have a motion to approve the 2022 calendar as presented?
I'll so move.
Thank you. Anyone want to second it?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of approving?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, the calendar is approved. Excellent. Jen, I'm not sure how this normally happens, and I think Eric normally does, Chair normally does excellent presentation for the joint work session. But if there's a need to have a subcommittee work on that, maybe we can discuss that in our January commission meeting.
Okay, yeah, so I was planning on, I'm glad you brought that up. I was planning on bringing the draft, putting it on the agenda, the draft,
Perfect.
like sub-agenda for that meeting to,
Okay.
yeah, to the next meeting. So we could talk about it then. We haven't really done a subcommittee in the past, but we did, you know, we do break it up, break the presentation up, like you said, so that there's several people helping out with that.
Excellent. Okay, so we are going to move on to the strategic plan. We need an action on this one as well.
Erin's going to take this one, but she needs to unmute herself.
Yeah, you need to hear me, right? Yes. So this is our 2021 strategic plan, and I have provided updates for what we have accomplished this year. And then once we do this, then I will update our 2022 strategic plan and present that at a separate meeting. So goal number 1 is, of course, to plan and build a new museum. We completed the construction documents this year, and we were awarded the Capital Heritage Grant for the site preparation. And then our midterm objectives include securing funding for building construction, and we started working on a timeline for that. For goal number 2, continuing to deliver high quality experiences at the Lacey Museum. We didn't hold a grand opening event for COVID reasons, but we did hold our virtual event. We had 9 history talks in 2021, all virtual so far. We conducted a history scavenger hunt for the public in June, and we sold 2 history exploring kits through registration. And then in the front room of the exhibit at the museum, we had the traveling exhibit, Who Are We Washington, from July 1st to October 1st. And now we have up 2 exhibits called Righting a Wrong, Japanese Americans in World War II, and a suffrage exhibit called From Parlor to Podium, which we put in November. Another one of our short-term goals is to create a permanent part-time benefited educator position. We did request this in the 2022 budget, but unsurprisingly, it wasn't funded. There were a lot of other priorities in this year's budget. But a win, the museum assistant position was moved to a higher level, more appropriate for the job in the wage chart, which came with a significant increase in pay. Another goal was to identify programming that could be implemented at the new site. Lacey in Tune was at the depot 2 times and had 55 people attending. And then we also started the pilot program of the Lacey Food Truck Plaza and Pop-Up Market at the depot site. And we completed schematic design for the core exhibit in the new facility. I assume you guys will stop me if you have questions or concerns. Goal number 3 is to take care of our collections in a professional way and continue to process and catalog new acquisitions as well as the backlog. I give a lot of detail here, which you can read yourself, which I don't think I need to give all of that, but we're making progress is what's important. And I provide a link to our publicly accessible collections. The new facility plans included meeting the needs for collections preservation, so that was accomplished. We have professionally trained collections preservation staff. We continue to work on the collections inventory, and so far, at last count, we did inventory over 1,200 items this year. Baby steps, y'all. Goal number 4 is to identify and secure stable long-term funding and revenue sources for the museum. Hang on, I got a call. Excuse me. So we completed the previous year's Heritage Capital Grant project. We've requested $5,000 from the Thurston County Heritage Grant. We applied for a diversity and local history intern, and we were awarded $5,616 for that. We were not able this year to make an additional request through the lodging tax process, but we'll continue to work that angle. We did start selling items in the gift shop, and we are now ready to start taking credit cards, and we just got new Thurston County history books. So we're going to start selling a few more things. We have some logoed merchandise like water bottles with the museum logo on it that we're going to sell, and we've got some other ideas cooking. Let's see. I put in the information here about the Lacey Community Foundation, which helps us make progress towards having a funding partner. And then this goal that is a campaign consultant to help identify sources of revenue. This will probably be a part of the Lacey Community Foundation's role and will come off of our strategic plan. And then we are in the very early stages of developing a community partners program, which would be part of an annual giving campaign. Same with membership, very early stages of developing a charter membership program. So some progress on midterm objectives there. Goal number 5 is to increase museum awareness and visibility throughout the city and the region. This year, we switched to an email provider, excuse me, and we began using this new format for museum news. It's a lot easier for us to use. The logo branding and website design were completed, but detailing the website and getting content in there is still in progress. We continue to contribute regularly to Lacey Life newsletter and other city projects as requested. And we continue to promote the museum's programs through social media, the brochure, and online event calendars. We have gotten approved to have our own social media account. I think that's going to happen after the website goes live. Goal number 6 is to build and foster community partnerships. We continue to work on our partnerships with North Thurston Kiwanis and Olympia Rotary Club this year. I gave presentations with them, and then we collaborated with the Lacey Rotary Club on an interpretive sign, which has been installed now at the depot site. And those are all the updates. I'm always surprised at how much we did.
Excellent. Sorry, I got bumped off.
Oh, glad you made it back.
Thanks. Any questions for Erin? No?
This is mostly a retrospective. I was just wondering if you have any sense of what the coming year will look like in this regard.
No,
just,
like
just in large scope.
Yeah, like I said before I started, that's what I'll be developing next. So
okay.
I'm not sure exactly yet. I think it'll be somewhat similar, but yeah, I haven't given deep thought to that quite yet.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Okay, so we need to move to accept this. Is that correct? Okay, do I have a motion to accept the strategic plan?
So moved.
Second.
Second. All those in favor of accepting the strategic plan?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Nope. Okay, we're plugging right along. The strategic plan has been accepted. So we're on to part 3 of the open public meeting training. I think this is the last part of this training.
That's correct. Yep, Sarah's got it for you.
Moment here.
How long is this segment?
This should be about 14 minutes.
Okay.
And let me just make sure. Sometimes it is a little finicky and tries to fight me, so give me. Oh boy. Okay. My apologies. It was queued up and then decided to take a dive.
Yeah, that's what just happened to me.
Okay, I think I got it. All right. Just a moment.
Hi, I'm Washington State Attorney General Bob Ferguson. Joining me in this video is our Open Government Assistant Attorney General, Nancy Creer. This training video provides an overview of the Open Public Meetings Act for both the general public and for public agencies. It is intended to provide a greater understanding of the legal requirements of this important act. The Open Public Meetings Act is a law passed by the people of the state of Washington in 1971 at the time of a nationwide effort to make government affairs more accessible and government more responsive. The purpose of the act is to provide the public access to information concerning the conduct of state and local government. The law is based on the principle that open government is essential to a free society. The act provided the people of our state the opportunity to witness the deliberations and the decisions of their government. State and local agencies, such as school boards, city and county councils, and state commissions, must comply with the Open Public Meetings Act. Actions and deliberations of these governing bodies must be conducted openly. Meetings subject to the Act must be open to the public, gavel to gavel, unless a law permits a meeting or a part of the meeting to be closed. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you find this training informative.
This training presentation is based on the Open Public Meetings Act. The OPMA is in RCW 42.30. This training video contains 15 short segments. The Attorney General just discussed Segment 1, the history, intent, and purpose of the Act. In the remaining segments, we will cover scope of the OPMA, what is a governing body, what is a meeting, what is action, what is final action, travel and gathering, regular meetings, special meetings, executive sessions, public attendance and comment, minutes, liability, other laws, and additional resources. The Act has several clear requirements, and compliance with them is improved with training. Training can mean the difference between complying with the law and expensive litigation. The Act applies to governing bodies of multi-member public agencies, both state and local. Public agency includes A, any state board, commission, committee, department, educational institution, or other state agency which is created by or pursuant to statute other than the courts and the legislature. B, any county, city, school district, special purpose district, or other municipal corporation or political subdivision of the state of Washington. C, any subagency of a public agency which is created by or pursuant to statute, ordinance, or other legislative act, including but not limited to planning commissions, library or park boards, commissions, and agencies. And D, any policy group whose membership includes representatives of publicly owned utilities formed by or pursuant to the Washington laws when meeting together or on behalf of participants who have contracted for the output of generating plants being planned or built by an operating agency. In some cases, an entity which is not an agency can still be subject to the Act when it is the functional equivalent of a public agency. This determination depends on whether it performs a government function, receives government funding, the extent of government involvement or regulation, and whether the entity was created by government. Examples of public agencies subject to the Act include city councils, county councils, school boards, fire district boards, and state commissions. Agencies governed by an individual, such as a single director, are not subject to the Act. Some activities of public agencies are not subject to the OPMA. They include certain licensing and permitting activities, quasi-judicial matters, matters governed by the Washington State Administrative Procedure Act, APA, and certain collective bargaining activities. All meetings of the governing body of a public agency shall be open and public, and all persons shall be permitted to attend any meeting of the governing body of a public agency, except as otherwise provided in the OPMA. A governing body is defined as the multi-member board, commission, committee, council, or other policy or rulemaking body of a public agency, or any committee thereof, when the committee acts on behalf of the governing body, conducts hearings, or takes testimony or public comment. Meeting means meetings at which action is taken. Physical presence of the members is not required. A meeting can occur by phone or in some cases by email. I will talk more about email exchanges later in this video. A meeting does not need to be titled meeting. The OPMA also applies to retreats, workshops, and study sessions. A meeting does not occur if there is not a quorum. Both actions and final actions are subject to the OPMA. Action means the transaction of the official business of a public agency by a governing body, including but not limited to receipt of public testimony, deliberations, discussions, considerations, reviews, evaluations, and final actions. Final action means a collective, positive, or negative decision, or an actual vote by a majority of the members of the governing body when sitting as a body or entity upon a motion, proposal, resolution, order, or ordinance. Final actions must occur in public. Secret ballots are not allowed. A majority of the members of a governing body may travel together or gather for purposes other than a regular meeting or special meeting, so long as no action is taken. And remember, action includes discussion of agency business. This means a quorum of members can travel to a meeting together, or they can gather at a public or private event, such as a festival or social function, so long as they do not collectively discuss agency business or matters. Regular meetings are recurring meetings held in accordance with a periodic schedule by ordinance, resolution, bylaws, or other rule. State agencies file the notice of regular meetings each year with the Office of the Code Reviser. Regular meeting agendas are to be posted online on an agency's website 24 hours in advance, unless the agency does not have a website or if it employs fewer than 10 full-time equivalent employees. Special meetings are meetings that are not regular meetings, called by the presiding officer or a majority of the members. This means they are meetings not on a fixed schedule, such as on a day different than the regularly scheduled meetings. Certain notice requirements apply to special meetings. For example, 24-hour advance written notice must be provided to members of the governing body unless waived, provided to local newspapers, radio, and TV stations that have a request on file, posted on the agency's website if the agency has a website, unless other exceptions apply for agencies with few staff, and prominently displayed at the main entrance and the meeting site. The notice must specify the time, place, and business to be transacted. There is an exception to the notice requirements for emergency special meetings. Those are meetings involving injury or damage to persons or property, or the likelihood of injury or damage, where time requirements make notice impractical and increase likelihood of injury or damage. Under the OPMA, an executive session is a part of a regular or special meeting that is closed to the public for the limited purposes listed in the OPMA. The grounds for holding an executive session are narrowly construed. The purpose of the executive session and the time it will end must be publicly announced before excluding the public, and the time can be extended by further announcement. Examples of purposes include certain real estate discussions, reviewing negotiations on publicly bid contracts under certain conditions, evaluating the qualifications of an applicant for public employment, and meeting with legal counsel regarding enforcement actions, litigation, or potential litigation. The OPMA provides a list of authorized executive session purposes at RCW 42.30.110. In addition, a public agency can have a closed meeting to discuss matters not subject to the OPMA, such as deliberating on a quasi-judicial matter. Other laws may provide additional procedures or authority for particular meetings or hearings, or for particular agencies. An agency must carefully follow the law when meeting in an executive or closed session. For example, when meeting in an executive session under the OPMA to discuss agency enforcement actions, litigation, or potential litigation, there are 3 requirements. First, legal counsel representing the agency must be present. Second, the purpose is to discuss an agency enforcement action, litigation, or potential litigation to which the agency, governing body, or a member acting in an official capacity is a party or is likely to become a party. And finally, public knowledge regarding the discussion is likely to result in an adverse legal or financial consequence to the agency. Remember, an agency can discuss only those matters in an executive session under the OPMA that it has told the public it would discuss. The members cannot talk about other topics in that executive session. As we discussed, all meetings of the governing body of a public agency shall be open and public, and all persons shall be permitted to attend any meeting of the governing body of a public agency, except as otherwise provided in the OPMA. An agency also cannot place conditions on attendance, such as requiring persons to register their names or fill out a questionnaire before attending. As noted, email or phone call discussions among members of a governing body can be a meeting under the OPMA. But the purpose of the OPMA is to permit the public to attend and observe agency meetings. So when the public is unable to attend email or phone call discussions that are meetings under the OPMA, the Act has been violated. For example, it is generally agreed that the members can meet via a teleconference call so long as 1. Any public notice procedures are satisfied, and 2. An agency sets up a process for the public to attend, such as having a speakerphone available at the agency's official meeting location so the public can hear the discussion. In contrast, since an email exchange among a quorum of members of a governing body is not open to the public, such an exchange in which action takes place is a meeting that would violate the OPMA. And remember again, action is broadly defined. Those email exchanges do not comply with public notice and attendance requirements for regular or special meetings. The OPMA does not include a requirement that public agencies allow public comment. Nevertheless, many public agencies do permit some public comment period at a meeting, such as at the beginning of a meeting. Agencies can put reasonable procedures in place to allow for public comment. And the OPMA has procedures for dealing with disruptions when the orderly conduct of the meeting is unfeasible. The minutes of all regular and special meetings, except executive sessions of such boards, commissions, agencies, or authorities, shall be promptly recorded, and such records shall be open to public inspection. That law does not require any specific format for minutes. That law also does not require an audio or video recording of a meeting, although many agencies make such recordings. We have advised that the minutes should, at a minimum, recite the significant actions of the agency. Violations of the OPMA can result in a lawsuit against an agency and its members. A court can impose a $500 civil penalty as personal liability against each member who attends a meeting in knowing violation of the OPMA, and a $1,000 penalty for a subsequent knowing violation. A court can declare any action taken at a meeting not held in compliance with the OPMA null and void. And a court will award costs and attorney's fees to a successful party seeking a remedy under the OPMA. To recap, this presentation covers the highlights of the Open Public Meetings Act. Public agencies may be subject to other laws governing other particular meeting or hearing procedures or governing particular agencies. And the laws concerning agency meetings and hearings can also be amended from time to time. Therefore, agencies are cautioned to be mindful of all the current laws concerning their meeting and hearing procedures.
Thanks for participating in the Attorney General's Open Government Training. For more information, there are resources available for agencies to receive training and technical assistance for compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act. An official should first consult with its agency's counsel for routine assistance and for training. Additional resources are listed on this website. The Assistant Attorney General for Open Government, Nancy Creer, is also available to provide information about the Open Public Meetings Act.
Thank you for coordinating those. Anyone have any questions about the meeting or about the training? Nope. Okay. We are moving on to number 9, ad hoc committee meetings, and up for Policy and Steps Committee.
The Policy Steps Committee is still on hiatus.
Excellent. And the Archaeology Committee, I guess I think we've already discussed our next steps, which is a meeting next week in hopes to review the site form. And I just emailed Jen and Aaron an example of what a site form looks like and what you should expect to see. And that is, we'll report out after that. Okay, so we're skipping 10 and on to 11, reports. And the first up is the museum curator.
Yeah, so we had a really slow November, only 8 visitors, which I think is an all-time low. But Carson tells me we had a lot of people this last weekend, so who knows? It's a crazy world right now. A significant amount of my time right now is being spent on customer service requests. We have several large requests that are in progress. So that's what I've been really busy doing. I also wanted to share that I interviewed intern applicants for the Diversity and Local History Grant, and we did select someone. And references are done, and he's been offered and accepted the position. So now we're just doing paperwork to get things started. His name is Fulton Bryant Anderson, and he is a student at PLU.
Excellent.
He did for his thesis project a podcast called Innovative History with one of his professors. It's pretty cool. You should check it out. We had our third history talk in November with 34 attendees. I think that's the highlights.
Excellent. Thank you, Erin.
Yep.
Okay, up next is commissioner reports. And if you don't mind, I'd like to just go first and acknowledge the tragedy that happened in downtown Olympia today. And the large fire that took place and burned a number of buildings. Many were historic buildings dating to the early 1900s. At least 5 local businesses, some residents who lived in those buildings that had a focus of more affordable housing, and the adjacent new development, which was infill, the market flats that was intended to be more affordable housing. So a very significant tragedy, and the fire staff and emergency people were still working on the fire when I drove through at 4:30 this evening. So just our thoughts go out to Olympia. And I know many local businesses are doing profit sharing this weekend, local coffee shops and such. So I'd encourage everyone to check that out. And if we can offer any other assistance, I just wanted to put that out there. So that's my only update. I guess we'll just go in order. How about Commissioner Keogh?
Actually, I was just in downtown Olympia today, but we were driving on 5th, didn't know about the fire until late this afternoon. The only major note that I had, in looking at the Thurston County Historic Commission and looking at their rack display, is thinking about moving where they're going to have it. They ran into some issues about putting it near a corner near the field, the softball fields, because it put them in a position of not being able to get a relatively level piece of ground. And so they're thinking of moving it down closer to the basketball courts, further east in the parking lot. And that's the major update in that regard.
Excellent. Thank you for continuing to work on that. How about Commissioner Miller?
I will say that the youth council has been working on getting the social media aspect like ramping up a bit more. So if there's anything you want to know through the social media, target the youth, maybe get people to go to the museum and bump those numbers up. Just let me know and I'll do it.
Excellent. That's a great idea. Okay. Commissioner Black.
I have nothing to report other than to say that those big frame buildings that are under construction are basically piles of kindling until the sprinkler systems are turned on. And this is not the first one that I've seen, unfortunately.
No, I hear there has been a number in recent months of a similar style of building and infill. So, Commissioner Getz.
Sorry, I'm having problems with getting my buttons to click. I have nothing to report. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Tyler.
I just have a couple things. One is I'd like to thank Aaron for the update on the strategic plan. That was well done. And the other thing is I have a little bit of a concern over the Lacey Cares survey and how we're perceived by the community as far as our rating in that. And is there something that we need to be more proactive on? It's kind of a Jen question. I mean, is there something outcomes from this survey that are going to help us with that kind of thing in the future? That's all I had to say.
Did you want me to respond to that now or just prepare thoughts for next time?
Just prepare thoughts for next time, Jen, would be great. I mean, like I said, it's kind of a report card to us in some regard and where we place and everything. And I think some of it's just lack of information by the community. I mean, Aaron's doing a great job as far as bringing cultural aspects into the museum. I mean, and informing people on different opportunities. So I just would like to see us be perceived a little bit better.
Thank you, Commissioner Tyler. Did I miss anyone for commissioners? Nope. Okay. Well, here's Eric's opportunity, and he is not here. So I guess that was supposed to. Maybe I should have waited until then. So the last update is from Parks, Culture, and Recreation Director, Jen.
Okay, thanks. And thanks for your thoughts, Commissioner Tyler. I do have some thoughts, but I'll save them for next time and put together anything else that comes to mind. Just a couple of quick things. We had our annual staff retreat the first week of December. We did that virtually and it went well. It's crazy to think that we're almost into 2022. We did have our lighted parade and tree lighting event. So hopefully some of you were able to go to that the first week of December at Huntsmore Park. And we did have our Breakfast with Santa events this past weekend. So we're just happy that these things can be back up and running. And my only last thing is just to really express gratitude to all of you commissioners for a great year. Thanks for your support and thanks for, being champions of heritage and culture and the importance of that in Lacey. So really appreciate you for all your work. And then to my staff as well that are here. Aaron does such a great job. Thank you for all your efforts. And it's been a very, very busy year for museum. So sometimes people don't realize all the behind the scenes, customer service requests that Aaron is working on and the new exhibits and staff turnover, etc. Also want to thank Sarah, our executive assistant, as she's been new in these last few months. Thank you so much, Sarah, for jumping in and doing such a great job with everything that you've been working on. So anyway, happy holidays and happy new year to everybody. That's all I have.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I guess if there's no objections, I think we're ready to adjourn. We don't have to have a motion for that, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
There's not an asterisk by it.
I move we adjourn.
I second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? No. Have a great night, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good holidays.